All right, and our fourth trip into the discography of REM, and it is their fourth album. So we have so far been perfect in
Four
terms
for
of
four.
covering 4 for 4 in terms of covering REM albums. Although I must say, I did not tag with you guys on Fables of the Reconstruction, so I will keep it very brief, guys. I love Fables of the Reconstruction,
Mm.
and I actually felt you guys did a very good job. You always do, but particularly of sort of encapsulating my thoughts of it being a much darker album. I think of Murmur and Reckoning as being paired sets to some degree, right? Because
Yeah.
they're kind of doing the same thing. Fables is where you get to that thing where each REM album starts to have its own personality a little bit, and that's the dark. I think the band almost broke up during that album. They went
Wow.
overseas and recorded it, and I think they said that's the closest they ever came. And REM famously being the band that never broke up, right? Like Bill Berry leaves, right? But he doesn't leave because they break up. He leaves because of health reasons. So yeah, and Matt, run the numbers, but I'll be able to continue that. I was gonna
Yeah.
go so nicely thematically into it, but I got to run the numbers.
No,
So
that's cool. So Life Search Pageant by REM comes in at number 72 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums, number 9 in 1986, number 503 of all time. It's REM's fifth highest rated album on Best Ever Albums behind Out of Time, Document, and Murmur. I'm sorry, and Murmur and Automatic for the People. So it's the fifth highest rated. And it's not on Rolling Stone's list, and REM again is ranked at number 20 in overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums.
yeah, and it's interesting that we cover both REM and Sonic Youth on this episode because I kind of said to myself, I get the feeling as we cover the Sonic Youth albums, I'm gonna kind of like rediscover that like Sonic Youth is a top 10, maybe even top 5 band for me, right? And Evil wasn't like necessarily the album, right, where like I had that transcendent thing, but I've long said that I consider REM to be a top 5 band ever for me, and I'm always surprised by how surprised people are by that they're like, really, I don't think of them as like a band that would be somebody's favorite band. And I'm like, well, why? And like when I do albums like this, I'm like
What's wrong with
even
you?
I'm even more surprised that people are surprised because like not only is there a chance that REM might be a top 5 band for me, like there's days where I might say REM might be my favorite band, in terms of their volume of work and how much I like it, and the sort of the balance of that or the volume of it, because if Fables of the Reconstruction is the album that's dark and moody and uneasy, right? Like this is clearly a response to that, where they're like, we're going to go poppier, not as poppier as they go later in the decade, but certainly bring back some of the elements of what was there in Murmur and Reckoning. Maybe not quite as jangly, I'd say, but also thematically and lyrically, it's a more well, Michael Stipe is always sort of oblique, but
That is
and not-
true. Yes.
it's like his lyrics are always everything and nothing at the same times, right? And I think he's even said that like I've never bought his idea that like the lyrics he just writes down, they mean nothing. Like I clearly think they do, but I've always felt that Michael Stipe's role as a lyricist and lead singer of REM is very much as like a mood setter, right? Like he sets the mood for the song, and then the rest of the band exists sort of around it. And there's some really good examples of that on this album of songs that like Hyena is one that's like that, and Fall on Me. These are songs where you get Hyena gets like a frantic energy as you would expect from a song called Hyena, right? Like The Flowers of Guatemala has a sentimental vibe as you'd expect from a song called The Flowers of Guatemala, right? Like Fall on Me is a contemplative song, right? That sort of and you have to remember Michael Stipe's always writing from sort of an interesting point of view with love songs, right? Because he's writing songs as a gay man, right? But he's writing them universally, right? So he's always working in sort of a a nondescript, right? Like protagonist for these songs and relationships. They can be everybody and nobody at the same time, which also lends them the added credibility of the fact that they don't have to necessarily be romantic love. They can be love you have for anybody you love, right? Whether it be a family member or a friend or just a concept, right? But yeah, I always love albums like this one because if you were to name 15 REM songs that you know, I don't know if any of the songs on this album would be any of the 15 that most people would put down, right? Because there's not that one definitive REM song on this album,
Right.
but there's many, many people who will say that this is their favorite REM album, which I can't think of many bands that can do that, right? Where like one of their top 15 songs is not on an album, yet
You don't
the album.
you don't think "Fall on Me" would be the song on this record?
Like if you listed 15 REM, so let me do an exercise with you. Allow me to do a little bit of a masturbatory exercise right here. Let me see if I can get to 15 songs that we agree on would be ahead of that in the general population. Okay, so we got easy ones, right? Like "Losing My Religion" certainly would be ahead of it, right? "The End of the World as You Know It," right? To "Stand," right? "This One Goes Out to the One I Love," right? Would definitely be above it. "Everybody Hurts," I think would be above it, right? So that gets us to what, 5?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so that's 5. Is there any? I mean, I just went with the ones that are pretty.
I
think-
don't know if we need to go through like every single
Yeah,
song.
I'm not
just
saying-
I could see somebody coming up with like in general
Yeah.
like that if you're just I'm just saying if you're gonna pick a song on this record, that would be it. And I don't think it
And
would
that
be
was the
a
single, right?
I don't think it's
That
a
and
huge
Superman.
stretch to say that, "Fall on Me" would be a song that a lot of people would be familiar with. That's all. But but point taken, most of the songs on this record, I would agree with you that don't.
But
that
it's
they would
closer to
not.
15 than it is to like 7. Would you
Yes.
agree with that?
You're just saying. I think you're
yeah.
just saying the singles aren't as strong compared to other albums.
I don't think if it's song, it's rare that you find an album where, like, I mean, they certainly, like, tell me what the "Fall on Me" video was about.
Oh, I have
You know,
no idea.
you can't, right? Because there really wasn't one, right? And that's what I'm saying. And there were other, like, I think, like, Driver 8, right? For Fables
Yeah.
kind of has that view too, but like Driver 8 to me would show up on people's list as an REM song ahead of like "Fall on Me," right? And that's not their
I don't know if I'd
artistic
agree with that,
merits.
but
Well-
we might be splitting hairs here, but I think "Fall on Me" is a relatively big song for REM. Not their biggest, but I don't think it's out of nowhere. I think it's definitely a
So
bigger
it is
song for them.
definitely so we'll use Spotify, right? Spotify has it as having 11,439 plays. Okay. So let's go into Fables, right? That's probably because we use Driver 8, right? Which would be the corollary to that. Okay. So I'm going in right now to Fables to check to see the total plays for. This is supposed to go quicker for me along the way, but it's taking a sweet time.
It's definitely not in the top 10. All the top 10s are like stuff from Out of Time and Automatic from the People.
Right.
So
Driver 8 has 7.7 million plays. So by that, right, you would be right. "Fall on Me" comes a little bit ahead
more.
of Driver 8.
What about Superman?
I mean, I think of "Fall on Me" as a song that would come up earlier than Superman.
Yeah, I would
in
agree with
terms
that.
of like the general. Yeah, but I mean,
Anyway, we
I
don't have to
guess
get bogged down with that,
No,
but
it's
yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing though because it goes to our assumptions, right, of what people are listening to, but they kind of fall in that same lane in terms of where they're at. But I guess where I'm at now is that you're starting to see the REM that becomes the massive band, right? Because this one definitely has more songs that you're saying to yourself, this could play on mainstream radio, right? And the indiness, right, of REM is starting to blend into the large video friendly, band, right? That eventually becomes arguably the biggest rock band in the world for a couple of years. And they kind of sneak up on you, right? Because they always seem small even when they're large. It's kind of what I think about REM, right? And that's kind of like the magic to them. So I've got a lot more to say. Once again, I'm trying to be much better about not taking up the space and kind of being more conversational as we go along. I'm curious to hear each of your initial takes, right? And then kind of I'll jump in, to follow up. So I guess, Matt, let's start with you. What do you think?
I think Josh is next.
Oh, Josh is that? Okay, sorry, Josh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this album. I think right out of the gate, what I noticed is that it was like kind of a harder, more hard rocking sounding album than the previous efforts. Right from the initial guitar part on Begin to Begin, it's kind of.
Did
got
you know
this...
that song before, Josh? By the way, or was that a new?
No.
Yeah,
I don't think I knew any of these songs. I don't think I even knew Fall on Me before.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, I'm not one of those people that knew that song. So yeah, it kind of has this more, I don't know, propulsive quality to the album. I would agree also with John's sentiment that there's less jangliness in the guitar and on the tracks as a whole. I like when the tambourine comes in on Begin to Begin also. And it's still consistently, the guitar is still great, Peter Buck's guitar. I really like when they harmonize and like on Fall on Me, when they have the kind of the backing singers join in on the vocals in the chorus. I really like that. And I think this is another I think from track to track it's consistently good as well. I really like that song Cuyahoga, which is the third track, and then later on down Just a Touch I really like. It's kind of a more fast-paced piano. They throw some piano in there as well. And then Superman, I noticed, has which I think I had heard before. I must have heard it before. And but it's got banjo on it, I think, in the background somewhere, or like keyboard or something too. It's kind of got some interesting things I didn't notice about it, other than Michael Stipe, just kind of singing the I Am Superman line. It's kind of a simple song, but it's like very effective and catchy. But overall, I really this is another strong effort for them. I feel like this might be my favorite of the albums that up to this point that we've listened to of theirs, but I feel like there might be some recency bias too. Probably every album I listen to will be my favorite unless they just keep getting better and better. I don't know, but I would agree too, John. I paid attention to the lyrics this time. I read along with them as I was listening, and they often don't make sense, and I could not parse sometimes what they're about. Like Hyena, I wrote down, I don't know what this song is about, and it's definitely not about a hyena, that's for sure. and then but Cuyahoga, I think, does get into, or does find that sweet spot of not being too oblique, and I think you can kind of put together what the song would be about not only the river, but maybe like Native Americans and things like that. So I think from a lyrical standpoint, it's nice when they're kind of poetic or a little oblique, but you can still figure out, or there's still some sort of like message or underlying thing to it.
I think like going to that idea of evoking a feeling, right? Like I think Hyena isn't supposed to be about a thing. It's supposed to be about like the feeling of being a hyena. You know what I mean? Like, because hyenas are,
yes,
kind of, they're kind of frantic, right, and stuff.
Yep.
And even if you hear that like chorus where it's like hyena, it's kind of like the idea of being like chased by or being a hyena, right? So he does that a lot, right? Like it's kind of the vibe, as kids would say nowadays, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to
I also liked Underneath the Bunker, which is kind of the last track on the A side. It's an instrumental. It's kind of almost got like this not surf rock per se, but almost like south of the border type of sound to it, maybe like desert rock or something. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I really liked how that sounded as well.
There's vocals on that too, Josh.
Oh.
It's not a fully instrumental. It's
okay.
It's like a subdued vocal, but yeah.
It's kind of like the music you see when they show like a motel with a lot of odd people in it. You know what I mean? With the blinking light. That's like once again, like I get the vibe, right? Like Cuyahoga's like kind of what like a steel town would be like, right? And that Underneath the Bunker is kind of like that motel, right? I always
like you're on Highway
Michael
66 stopping at a trinket shop or something.
Yeah, and there's a guy at a motel, right, who's like half asleep, and
yeah,
he's married to like either a much larger or a much smaller woman. You know what I mean? Kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Very evocative. And
for me at least, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a thumbs up for me. Also, I noticed that Life's Rich Pageant doesn't have an apostrophe in it, and I kept coming back to it. It's like really bothering me why it doesn't have an apostrophe in it anywhere, and it doesn't. It's not on the album having an apostrophe. So,
and there's no explanation.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, wouldn't it be possessive? Wouldn't Life have the rich pageant? I don't know.
I guess maybe Life is not a rich pageant, right? Like Life's like
multiple lives have rich
well,
pageants.
like maybe it's the Life's
Lives.
Maybe it's the Life's rich pageant. You know what I mean? As opposed to Life, because you're saying wanting it to be possessive, but maybe Life's is the proper noun, right?
Oh.
So. Like
You're
Life's
saying
rich is the proper noun, and pageant is
Oh,
so,
I see. Like Life's is a name.
Life's rich, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, they don't do anything by accident, right? That's kind of their. So, I'm sure while you guys are talking, I can look up why.
I'm just gonna ruminate on that. I never thought of rich.
Maybe you don't want to know the answer. This is so
it's
not
probably
you,
not gonna
Josh.
It's probably
it's
stupid.
not you to just let it sit there. You know what I mean? With no answer. That's like the anti-Josh. But maybe you should just let it sit there, and then you can inhabit Michael Stipe, because that's what his answer would be.
I do remember Josh was the first person that I ever met that really showed me that if you ever have a question, you can get an answer to it immediately. Like I remember we were sitting down, you and I were like, well, I wonder what this is, blah blah blah, and we're like, I don't know, it's just a weird thing. And Josh came.
But I think half the time,
later,
you and I didn't want answers.
Like, all right, we can look this up anytime we want.
Half the fun was if there is no answer, you both can be right at the same time, right? And Josh did not exist in that shade of gray.
Nope.
Yeah. We have to have somebody be the definitive winner of this question. So,
Also, I think Life's Rich Pageant would be a good name for a racing horse. So that's if I ever hear that, I'm gonna bet on that horse.
Fair point.
Yeah.
But yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah, so this record, now we're getting to R.E.M. that I actually was familiar with. The first three albums, I think I knew songs here or there, but never owned them and didn't know them fully. So this was an album that I was quite familiar with, and I do love this record. And I think right off the bat, when I first heard that song, I was very intrigued by that song. It's a really unique way of structuring a song with that guitar riff, that like the hammering down on that guitar, that little guitar part, and the way that they use it throughout the song to kind of bridge, within, it's not the chorus necessarily, but it's just the way that the drum kind of like snares down, stops, and then you put the guitar back and it goes right into it. It's a really cool way of doing a song, and that's a great tune. John, you used the word frantic a couple of times. I see what you're saying. To me, there's a lot of songs on here. I would use the word urgent. It's kind of like this fast-paced, kind of like urgent. And we've seen them do this before, but on a song like These Days or Just a Touch in particular, Just a Touch is a great song too. It's got like this. There's like it's got a very punk element to it, which R.E.M. was certainly. I wouldn't call them a punk band, but they definitely drew from punk influences in a lot of their songs. But I love the Mike Mills standouts on this. I mean, the bridge on "Fall on Me" is that's what makes that song for me. Was when you got Mills doing the bridge part of that where he's singing it. It's beautiful. He's got such a great voice. He does lead on Superman. That's his voice, mainly doing Superman on, there. So he's really shining here. Peter Buck's guitar playing is a standout. This is definitely a lighter, a more upbeat, more rocking album, certainly than Fables or the Reconstruction. And there's some variety on here too. You got something like, the slower songs like Cuyahoga and What If We Give It Away and Flowers of Guatemala. Kind of more of a novelty song like Underneath the Bunker. So it's flows, right? As opposed to the record we just covered with the Waterboy saying like, oh, it kind of hits this note, it stays there. There's more fluctuation here, which makes for a more overall interesting listen. But they're really, they've been hitting their stride already. But to me, this is where they bump up a little bit more of a level, I think, overall with the it's a little bit more of a mature sound. It's kind of it's kind of combining all the stuff that they did in their previous three albums. You kind of have, but there are some of the more I don't want to say dark. There's some darker undertones with some of the sounds anyway of some of the songs, but then it also kind of it rehashes through some of the stuff that they did earlier that was more upbeat and urgent. So I love the mixture of this. Underneath the Bunker's kind of, it's like a novelty type song, so I wouldn't say that it's a bad song. It's not something that stands out to me, but generally I don't think there's a bad song on here. And actually, it says here on Wikipedia, I knew Superman was kind of a hidden track on the CD because that's not listed on there, but it also says here that Underneath the Bunker wasn't listed on the packaging of the original release of the record anyway. So they had like 2 secret tracks, but yeah, man. I could easily see. I think I'm with you, John. R.E.M. is especially now knowing the first 3 albums better. They could definitely be in the running for a top 10 artist. I don't know if they would crack the top 5, but I think that they could definitely crack the top 10 for me. So big thumbs up on this. I love this band.
Yeah, I've got an answer for you, Josh. I found it.
Okay, great.
So the title, Life's Rich Pageant, was from a line in the 1964 film A Shot in the Dark, starring Peter Sellers as Inspector Clouseau. There's a set of lines where an actress says to him, "Get out of these clothes immediately, you'll catch your death of pneumonia, you will." And Clouseau replies, "Yes, I probably will, but it's all a part of life's rich pageant, you know." However, here's the apostrophe part, Josh. R.E.M., however, chose to present the album as Life's Rich Pageant, deliberately omitting the apostrophe. Nearly all contractions used by R.E.M. lack apostrophes, though in this case, life's was a possessive. Peter Buck later stated, "We all hate apostrophes." Michael insisted, and I agreed, that there's never been a good rock album that had an apostrophe in the title. So
Wow.
there you go. So credit to
apostrophes
You
are
Discover.
not rock and roll, Josh.
YouDiscoverMusic.com is where I got that from. So thank
Wow.
you for filling that in for me. Yes.
I never knew that they hated apostrophes. Never even thought of that, so I will now.
Apparently, they do not use them in any title that would do them across their catalog. So we'll have to pay attention to the next time there's a contraction that they choose to just reject.
That's amazing.
But yeah, this is a great album, and R.E.M's a freaking great band, man. Like 4 for 4. Like and the fact that you didn't know this, the fact that like you knew them pretty well, Matt, and it's like, well, you know them, but let's just go ahead and throw Murmur and Reckoning and like Fables on, right? And it's like, god damn, like I'm sure it had to have been like, okay, these were just hanging here, you know, to not exist. And Josh,
I pretty much know everything beyond then through like their, through Up, really. As I can pretty much,
So
Josh, I'm excited for Josh.
Are you digging them like Matt and I do, or is it still like a work in progress for you?
Yeah, I am liking them. I'm enjoying them. I think they will be. I think I'll be rewarded more on future listens as well. They'll be a band that I come back to, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I also remember seeing. I saw them play Begin to Begin with Eddie Vedder, which was awesome.
Oh, nice.
Part of members of Pearl Jam. Yeah, that was.
I can hear Eddie Vedder singing that song because of the like it's a little bit of a different singing style for Michael Stipe, and it's like it is more yarly than he normally is. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was great. Yep.
Awesome.